So teaching machines to understand. Right off the bat, I'm breaking a rule that bothers some people in the AI space in terms of talking about algorithms as if they're people. They do things that we do, like learn and understand. The truth is, we've been talking about computers like people's for as long as we've had computers. Eliza was a chatbot in the 60s that acted like a therapist, and its users felt like it really understood and empathized with them, even though it just followed simple if-then rules. And I think we have a lot of these experiences today, 60 years later, with ChatGPT, where we have these conversations that feel really fluid and human, even though it's an algorithm. And so here you can see I'm talking to ChatGPT about Eliza. It looks at an image and tells me about the history of Eliza. I think this is surely something closer to understanding. But how did we get here? Well, in the 40s, a scientist named Vannevar Bush came up with something called the memex. He wanted to link together ideas and documents the same way human brains associate related ideas, rather than arbitrarily alphabetizing them. And we can do this today with modern note-taking apps. You can see here I took notes on a talk and I linked them to other related notes in my Notes app. And this is pretty cool. You can navigate the graph and see what you thought was related, but it doesn't really scale. It becomes tedious to manually link things together. We have so much information available at our hands that this just isn't possible to do in a scalable way, and you can't use it to discover new things that you've never seen before. How am I supposed to navigate all this information out there that might be meaningful to me? Now, obviously, with the internet, we've been using text search for a long time. And it's great, it helps us find what we're looking for, but it's also had limitations. If I was looking for Vannevar Bush's phrase, selection by association, but I searched the keyword find or relation, I might not find it because it's not a text match. So 30 years after Bush, we had Gerard Salton. He came up with the vector space model of information, where documents are represented as vectors, which are like a list of numbers, a point in space, and documents that are related or similar in some sense should be close together in that space. And early versions of these vectors were pretty simple. Maybe if the document had the word cat in it, the cat column was a 1 instead of a 0, and documents which are close in that space have a lot of the same words, so they're probably related, but we're still based on words here. Cut to 2013, wasn't the first, but Word2Vec showed that we could learn those vectors with a statistical model instead by optimizing them to be able to predict other words in the sentence. And really cool things emerge from the space when you do this. The most famous example is if you take the vector for king and you subtract man and then add woman to it, you get one that's close to the vector for queen. And we achieve that goal of linking together similar concepts and similar words to be close together in the space. We no longer have to rely on exact term matching. And this might seem kind of like academic and obtuse, and you don't know where I'm going with this, but this ended up being the kind of underpinning for almost all of our AI products that have some sort of machine understanding today. You can effectively make a vector for anything. If you have a bunch of trending TikTok videos and you learn vectors to represent them and then you visualize that, you see that the videos for true crime are all together, the videos for motherhood are all together, the videos for politics are all together. And suddenly we've developed this way of sorting and retrieving information in a way that's meaningful to humans. And now if I similarly learn representations of movies so that movies watched by the same people are near each other, well, now you've built a recommendation model for movies and personalization for search, just like Netflix does. And when you add even more metadata and multimodal data like images, you can have even cooler things. Etsy built a search by photo feature where you can input a photo of something you're interested in and you get similar results on Etsy for products that are like that in some human meaningful sense. And I'd argue that this is akin to a form of understanding because we're narrowing this semantic gap between the things we care about and the digital representations of those things. So it used to be that to my computer, a photo was pixel data effectively. But now when I go on Google Photos and search for antiques, it knows which of the photos I took are photos of antiques. And we get these cool sci-fi experiences out of it. I can take a picture of a bookshelf and identify a book just from its spine and then go and buy that book. That to me is really cool. So I think we've come a really far way in achieving some of Bush's goals of the memex, of organizing data in ways that are related to the meaning and the relationships between it. But there's so much more that we can do in terms of mapping machines onto the way that we think about and understand the world and having them understand us. And I don't think we should be afraid of things that seem crazy today. Because there's this XKCD comic from 2014 about easy and hard problems in computer science, and the hard problem is identifying a photo of a bird. 10 years later, we have binoculars that can tell you what species of bird you're looking at. So things today that once seemed out of reach are possible. And I want to push this notion of machine understanding even further to know what kind of points might make my argument more persuasive, what kind of drug might treat this disease, what kind of choice might make my life more fulfilling. So these are the types of problems that interest me. If you're interested, let's talk about them and make them reality. Thank you.